face life and stop passing the buck as it say, or the buck as it say. It's time to stop pointing the finger. It's time to be real. It's time to be real about what's happening in your life. It's time to be real about the issues in your life, because I know you, like me, want to be delivered and want to be set free and healed. And this is your opportunity. So let's be real about life. Let's be real about what's happening in your life. Let's be real about the life situations. God bless. Hello, and welcome to a special edition, our anniversary edition of Let's Be Real About It, where we are real about real life issues. I am your host, Mildred Towns. I am excited about this show tonight because this is our 1 year anniversary. Can you believe it's been a whole year since we first aired in 2021? And I say to God be the glory. But before I go any further, I do want to give special thanks to my sponsors who support the show. If I can get it out of my mouth tonight, special thanks to the anonymous sponsors, and special thanks to J&K Style Grill. And I also want to say this, if Let's Be Real About It been a blessing to you in any way, please consider sending a love donation to $ Mildred Towns. Again, that's $ Mildred Towns. If this show have been a blessing throughout the year to you, please consider supporting the show. I do want to make this one announcement. Every morning at 7:30 a.m., please join us for prayer on the prayer line. That's every morning at 7:30 a.m. Please join us for prayer on the prayer line. The number is 605-313-5885, and the code to dial in for the prayer is 881878 pounds. So please, every morning at 7:30, we're praying. Every morning at 7:30, we're praying. So please join us. I give special thanks to everyone who watched the show nationally, as far as China, Korea, and all those places, London, all those places, internationally, who watched the show nationally. Thank everybody who watched the show, because really wouldn't be a show without my guests and without you watching it. So you take the time, you sit down before your computer, your TV, whichever you watch it on, and you take the time to tune in. I love your comments. I love when you come on and you comment, so I'm just grateful. I'm just so grateful. And I give a very grateful Thanksgiving to every guest that took the time to come on Let's Be Real About It. And I just want to do a quick recap of their stories. One of my first guests that came on was Carlise Oglesby. The title of her show was just plain and simple abortion, which was a very touchy topic. Now, I'm going to tell you something about her story. Her story really needs to be in a booklet, put in a booklet, and placed in different places like doctor's offices and places like that, so that when you first not diagnosed, but when you first find out that you're pregnant and you in between that, should I not phase getting an abortion, really go back and listen to her story. As I say, need to be in the doctor's office so it can be given out, because one thing they don't tell you if you make the decision to get an abortion is all the mental trauma that you go through after the abortion. They don't tell you this. They don't tell you these things. So, and with her, from November 19th, 2004 to November the 19th, 2019, for approximately 15 years, she would cry and be sad about the abortion that she had where she aborted her child. See, because she wasn't given a choice in the matter when she told her boyfriend that she was pregnant. He made the decision that she was going to get an abortion because he didn't want to have any more children. So he called the abortion clinic, set up the appointment, and told her this is what they was going to do. This is the date. This is the time. So she didn't have a choice. Well, she did have a choice in the matter, but he didn't give her that opportunity to say yes and no, yes and no. So, she went through this thing, for like I said, approximately 15 years. But in the year 2020, she made up her mind that enough was enough, that she was no longer going to subject herself to the crying. She was no longer going to subject herself to being sad about what she had done. So she made up in her mind and she asked God for help. And she overcame the mental anguish, and she overcame, going through the sadness on the anniversary day. She forgave herself and she began to trust God, and she overcame. And now she's telling her story. So her story, y'all, please go back and listen to her story, because that was over 42 million abortions occurred in 2020, for surpassing the total of people who perished as a result of the world's leading cause of death, which is cancer. So more abortions being done than people dying with cancer. So one of the second guests that came on my show was Dr. Serena Harris. And I'll tell you what, with her story, y'all, her story, this needs to be a Lifetime movie with her story. I mean, really, truly, if there's a movie producer out here that's listening, y'all really need to do a movie on her story. The title of her story is I Don't Look Like What I've Been Through. She shared a dynamic story of overcoming physical, mental, and verbal abuse by her husband. Uh, it was really a toxic marriage. He purposely caused her to have two miscarriages and bragged about the fact. Uh, she was pregnant 7 times, and each time that she was pregnant by him, he beat her each time that she was pregnant by him. Uh, um, some of the things that he did to her was that he shot at her, barely missing her head. He tried to smother her. He punched her in the face. He stumped her. He blackened her eyes. He beat knots on her head. He dragged her by the hair and tried to put her head through a wall and beat her with a walkie-talkie. And this is just to name a few of the things that she suffered within that relationship. They got a divorce, but before he passed away, they became friends. They became friends. They became very good friends before he passed away. So she has now since remarried, is very happy in her marriage, and she's a pastor of a church. So kudos to her, but God brought her out of that toxic relationship. She became friends with the guy, her ex-husband. She became friends with him, and now she's happy in a marriage, pastor in the church, and gotten several businesses that she do. And she also have a book called Sister Sister. So y'all go look at her. Go look at her on YouTube. Hear her story. Dynamic story. Dynamic story. And if there's anybody out there who's sick, and you need to listen to Gloria Whittenberg's story. Her story need to be one of those movies of triumph, victory over sickness, and that was the title of her show. She was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, pulmonary fibrosis, which is a serious lung disease. Uh, I personally saw her going from walking, being energetic, to in a wheelchair, uh, you know, uh, oxygen wheelchair. But God, so how do I want to put this, gracefully healed her. She went through a double lung transplant. God sent her an angel. God sent her an angel. Y'all need to listen to God sent her an angel, which was Jackie. Jackie came into her home and stayed with her for I'm not for sure a length of time that Jackie stayed with her, but Jackie was determined that she was going to live, that Gloria was going to live because God had spoke to her and told her that Gloria, her sister, was dying. So she began to juice for her, wouldn't allow her to eat whatever she wanted to eat. Basically, Gloria became a vegetarian. And as her illness progressed, she was given 3 months to live, but she was determined to live and not to die. And as I said, she got a lung transplant and she's doing wonderful now. Beacon of light. A beacon of light, encouragement to anybody that's sick, that God can take that sickness and God can turn around and God can heal you, and you can live a vibrant life. Um, One of my guests was Joanne Harlan. The title of her show was Suicide. Joanne left her husband and she moved back with her mom. She was married. She left her husband, moved back with her mom. When she moved back to her mama's house, she got a sense of freedom, and with that freedom came bondage. So, how many know that sometimes you can be free, but sometimes bondage will creep up on you? So, with that freedom came bondage. She started drinking heavily and partying. Started, and her life just started going downhill. She began to drink. And she began to get out there in the world, with the drinking. The alcohol became that escape place, that safe haven. And alcohol, she said, felt as though, it empowered her. And during this time that she was out there in the world and that she was drinking, the Lord said to her, if you don't stop drinking, that you're going to drink when you don't want to. So she asked God to help her stop drinking because she doesn't want to become an alcoholic. And the Lord said to her, alcohol doesn't have legs and arms. It doesn't come to you. You go and get it. I thought that was hilarious, that God was saying that to her. And it's so true. Alcohol doesn't have legs and alcohol doesn't have arms. So you would have to go get the alcohol. And with her show being about suicide, she began to talk about the voices that she was hearing in her head that was telling her to kill herself. I think one of the voices had her to cut herself up, and the next voice that came to her was telling her, just kill herself. But the one thing that she said, how can I do that? And it doesn't hurt. And you know what? The voice said nothing because the voice didn't have an answer for it. How can she kill herself and it wouldn't hurt? So the voice left her. Joanne is now in the church. Joanne is saved. She's that light for her family, drawing her family to the Lord. And and I just give God praise for her because she's a great inspiration. She's a great inspiration in my life. And I really, 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 truly appreciate that. And y'all should listen to her story on suicide. If there's anybody out there thinking about ending their life, please go to my YouTube channel. And that's I Heard Ministry, Saturday 4.22, and listen to her story. One of my next guests was David Oglesby. He had a heart of bitterness and anger and resentment. He attempted to kill his dad, or our dad, for the abuse of our mom, but she intervened and kept him out of prison for murder. She intervened in that thing. He started drinking at an early age because our dad would take him places with him to drive for him, and they began to give him shots and all this stuff. So he got into the alcohol at an early age. And he became addicted to cocaine, but by the grace of God, he was delivered and he was set free. And also, not only was he delivered and set free from drugs and alcohol, God brought him back from death when the doctors had given him up and had told us that he wasn't going to survive, he wasn't going to live. That would not. They didn't say he wasn't going to survive. They didn't say he wasn't going to live. What they said to us was, "Go home if he survived." If he survived, it's going to be a long time from now. So y'all might as just go home. But thank God for a praying family. God raised him from his deathbed, restored his health. He's an elder in the church now. and a gift to teach it. He has a gift out of this world to teach and expound on the word of God. One of my next guests was Bernard Hurd. The title of his was No Longer a Slave to Drugs and Alcohol. In 1985, Bernard was introduced to cocaine. He started using the pipe. Friends became his enemy, and everything went sour from there. He moved to LA. Cocaine and alcohol controlled his life. Uh, it controlled his life so bad until he was walking through gunfire and it didn't phase him. Now you know he was controlled by this thing. If he would walk through gunfire, trying to find that next hit, and gunfire didn't phase him. But he finally got to the point to where he asked God for help, and he entered a rehab facility, and he went through the 12 steps. And kudos to him because he's been clean since 1992. He's lived a life of sobriety for approximately 30 years. And again, kudos. Uh, uh, Even on the show, we went through the 12 steps on Let's Be Real About It. We did the 12 steps. And so you can go back and you can listen to these stories, especially if you know somebody or if you yourself dealing with drugs and alcohol, if you've been dealing with bitterness, anger, and resentment. Go back and look at these shows, please, 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 please. And another show, another girl that came on, Tamika Jones. If y'all have not seen Tamika's show, I'm telling you right now, go back and watch Tamika's show. Tamika's show, I'm telling y'all right now, is a lifetime story. Her topic is If My Feet Could Talk. If her feet could truly, truly tell her story. Tamika was adopted by her mother's best friend, as a matter of fact. But she was a runaway. She would run away from home, uh, come back home, run away again, come back home, run away again. She got involved at a young age in an abusive, toxic relationship. At the age of 15, she got involved with this guy. This guy would do all kind of crazy stuff to her, like shoot down at her feet, whip her with a switch, and so she became pregnant by this guy. And while she was pregnant by this guy, he was beating on her and she stabbed him. She stabbed him in the arm, but he died. So at 16 years old, she went to prison. She was facing 20 years, but by the grace of God, she only had to do uh, 3 of the 20 years, if I'm not mistaken, 3 of the 20 years. So she just ended up doing 3 years. And it wasn't anything that she was trying to murder this guy. She was just trying to get him up off of her. So while she was pregnant and while she was in prison, she ended up having this baby while she was there. She talked about how terrible it was and how embarrassing it was and all the stuff that she went through giving birth to her child while she was in there. So y'all go and read her story. And then when she got out of prison, she married a guy that was in prison. So things were going well for them for a while. And then after a while, after approximately about 3 years, he began to cheat on her with a girl in the same apartment place where she lived. If I'm not mistaken, maybe 3 doors down or 3 buildings down from where she was, where they was living. And that was just devastating to her. She went through a whole lot of changes, but God restored her. God brought her out. And now she's telling her story. And, these people telling their stories to spare you, that you don't have to go through so many things. And she has this book, Brutal Courage. Y'all need to read this book because it's a collaboration of different authors in this book, different writers in this book, and they telling their story. Some of these stories in this book is, oh my God, is way out there. So make sure that you go back and, as I said, listen to her lifetime story, If My Feet Could Walk, and that's Tamika Jones, and her book is Brutal Courage. Another one of my guests that came on, Juanita Lightfoot, and the title of her show was I Was Lost, But Now I'm Found. Now, not Tamika, but Juanita was raised in the church. So she wasn't taught how to live outside of the church. All she knew was church. So she started dating at the age of 17, and she got into an abusive relationship with this young man. And when her parents found out, she was put out the house, put out of the house, and she started living with her boyfriend. After she was put out, she became pregnant, and her parents told her, because they was in the church, so they told her, okay, you're pregnant by this man. Now you got to marry this man. So what they didn't know was that the man was abusing her. So she went through this toxic relationship, found out that he was cheating, and the girl that he was cheating with caused her to have a car accident and to lose the baby that she was pregnant with, caused her to lose that baby. Now, one of the things that the doctor did, the baby was born stillborn, and they took that stillborn baby. Here, this girl is 17 years old, placed this baby up on her chest, and she looked down at her baby, and knowing that her baby wasn't alive, and it traumatized her. And she began to drink as a result of it. She began to go into all kind of relationships as a result of it. She began to drink heavily because every time she closed her eyes, all that she could see was this baby upon her chest, that her baby was stillborn. And so it took her through a whole lot of toxic relationships. Even to the point to where maybe the last relationship that she was in, or the third relationship, that this guy beat her till she passed out. So it's just some toxic relationships. But now she's back in the church. She's an evangelist in the church. She worked with the youth in her church. So and one thing that she talked about was the red flags. So this is a must see. I would encourage anybody that's over the youth ministry in their church to really, really go back and listen to her story, and even play it in some of your youth meetings. So, these young girls that's coming up, getting ready to get out here, start dating and stuff, that they will be familiar with the red flags when they get ready to go out to date. Another guest on the show was Cynthia Wilkins. Her title was The Anointing Destroys the Yoke. Cynthia fell in love with a man that was in the Kingdom Hall. He was married, she was married. And she felt that she was no longer attached to her husband. Her heart was no longer in the marriage. The people in the Kingdom Hall found out that she was involved with this man, and they told her that if she didn't leave him alone, then she would be disfellowship from Jehovah Witness. So she took the disfellowship, and she became willing to, because she didn't want to let the man go, because she was in love with him. So after this relationship ended, she met another man, found out that he was cheating on her. She went through terrible pain. She went through brokenness, and she wanted to kill herself. She went through a deep state of depression. But one night she received a word from the Lord, from Pastor Vihi, and her life changed. She was delivered from depression and suicidal thoughts. The enemy no longer came to her trying to get her to commit suicide. Y'all, she's delivered today. She's set free, and she carrying this gospel. She carrying this word. So anybody going through depression, anybody going through hurt, pain, after separation, any of this, y'all, please go back and listen to her story. You having suicidal thoughts, listen to her story. Listen to Joy in Harlem's story. Please, 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 please. Patricia Williams. This is another, when I say a lifetime story, y'all, this is another lifetime story. This story right here really need to be on Lifetime. And the title of her story was By the Grace of God. By the Grace of God. Patricia was in a very toxic marriage. She was physically, mentally, and verbally abused by her husband. Her husband was an elder in the church. The relationship was so toxic until she became so depressed, and she became so out of it, till just all of a sudden one day, she just jumped out of the second story window. She just jumped out of the window, because it was so toxic, and she became so depressed, and she spent many years, going through, if I'm not mistaken, approximately uh, 13 years, if I'm not mistaken, that she spent going through in and out of facility, mental health hospitals, because it had just worn her down so to the point, and the marriage was just so toxic. Um, Till she just couldn't handle it, she just couldn't take it, and as I said, she just jumped out of the second floor window. But there's so much more into her story. Her oldest daughter was molested by her father. We did a roundtable on this called incest. Was molested by her father. This experience for her oldest daughter, was so horrific that she attempted suicide twice. She jumped into the river in Toledo, Ohio, and was floating face down in the river, holding on to ice. So it was in the wintertime. Here, this young girl is out here in this river, just holding on to some ice in the river, because she was just so tormented, and with the fact that her dad uh, would molest her. The second attempt that she did to kill herself, she was rescued. Let me go back. She was rescued from the river. They came and they rescued her. The second attempt, she took pills and went into a coma, suffering from brain damage, in a wheelchair, and unable to walk. When the show aired, her daughter last year, when the show aired last year, her daughter was in a nursing facility for 8 years. Um, so as a result of being molested by her dad. The mental anguish. I never been there. I can't even imagine what it would be like. Your dad trying to mess with you, but I know it's so many. I've heard so many stories. I got stories coming up uh, with the same thing. Almost identical stories of incest that's coming up in 2022. So y'all go back and look at her story. It's a must watch show, and I want you to order her book, Triumphant Victory. Uh, y'all really need to hear her story. Really need to hear her story. And another guest was Nadine Owens, and her title was Blessed Through the Stress. Nadine have two children with autism, and she had one son with Asperger, if I'm saying that correct, syndrome. She talked about being a caregiver to her boys, and she talked about how important it is to take care of self as a self giver, as a caregiver. Um, and she also have an organization called Our Brother's Keeper as a result of her three sons. So she also have a resource center. So I can't even begin to imagine, what she go through. I can't even begin to imagine what life has been like with three kids with a type of autism. I can't even begin to imagine what her life may be like, but she's so energetic. She always involved in something. She's always doing something to keep herself busy. God is really using her. God is putting her out there. And again, look her up, Nadine Owens, Our Brother's Keeper, and she does have a resource center for people who have children with autism, that you can know things that she didn't know when her sons were born. So she had to learn how to handle them. She had to learn how to do it. But now she got a resource center, so you don't have to go through what she went through. Another one of my guests on the show was Mashika Martin. Marshika, we did a roundtable with her, and Marshika has a book called 40 Years, 40 Lessons. And this is something that she was writing for her daughters, and her husband just happened to come by the pad that she was working on. And he said, "You need to publish this." So she published the book. And so it's just something that she wanted to leave her children, that when she passed away, that her children would have something to guide them. And the one of the things that I love that she said that she told her daughter, it's okay to go on a date, but take your brains with you. So, that stays with me. Take your brains with you. Whatever you're going to do, take your brains with you. Other topics that we discuss from her book included: you teach people to treat you, how to treat you. You teach people how to treat you. No more burnt toast, which that's a good one. Y'all need to listen to that. Uh, have sex in the park. This is for married people. Have sex in the park. In the park. Also, rejection is God's protection. She said, I will not accept your abuse. So don't expect me to accept you abusing me. I will not accept it. And another one's protect your heart. Marriage doesn't make you happy. You make you happy. And another one that I really liked that we talked about, clap for your D self. If nobody else gonna clap for you, then you learn to clap for yourself. Pat your own self on the back. Give your own self kudos. Congratulate your own self. Hey, Mildred, I congratulate you, girl, for a whole year, of being on the air. Hey, pat you and God and you on the back. Another guest that was on the show is Reverend Dr. Jennifer E. And this is her book. She had a book, Self Care, the Vital Art of Nurturing You, Taking Care of Yourself, which is also the title of her book. And one of the topics in the book that really stood out to me is celebrate yourself, that we have to celebrate ourselves, that we sometimes feel so bad about ourselves that when God pours out a blessing for us, we question the good things in life. That is hard sometimes to accept when God pours out a blessing to you. Another thing that we discuss is health and healing. And she said in her book, if you are sick, let go of all unforgiveness, anger, guilt, shame, jealousy, and envy towards anyone. These are the works of the flesh and will rot your bones. Remember, your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost. So her book is Self Care, the Vital Art of Nurturing You. Take care of yourself, which is also, as I said, the title of her book. Another guest that was on the show was Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, he's such a comedian. I love this man. He's such a comedian. He always cracked me up whenever I'm in his presence. He's a retired major in the Air Force. Title of his show was On the Other Side of Through. So after he retired from the Air Force, he went to work in the Pentagon on Capitol Hill. He was working on Capitol Hill the day on 911 when the planes hit the Twin Towers. In 2001, right after the attack of 911, he was called out of retirement back to active duty, and he was stationed in Iraq in combat. While in combat, he suffered a severe injury that could have taken his life. He suffered brain and spinal injury and was in a coma for 28 days. But the grace of God and his healing power, he has healed and recovered. He's walking. He got his right mind. He don't have any brain damage. So, to the grace of God, for his healing power. He worked with BET, Sunday's Best with Kirk Franklin. He worked as an aide to President Carter. One of the things that he said, that when he worked for President Carter, that he used to hold the president's coat. So when he held the president's jacket, the president would keep peanuts always in his jacket. And while he's holding the coat, while the president up talking, he would eat all the peanuts out the president's coat. And when he get it back, President Carter would say, you've been in my jacket. You ate my peanuts. And you laugh and say, yeah, I ate your peanuts. So he would eat up the president peanuts. He also worked with former U.S. Senate Ted Kennedy, and he also works on with Jesse Jackson. So I love this man. I love Mr. Brown. He's funny. So he has a great story. So that's some things that I didn't tell about his stories because I want you to go and I want you to listen to his story. Another guest was, as a matter of fact, she was the first guest of 2022, and it's Nikea, and I know I'm not saying her name right, Catrell. This is a great story because, especially for first ladies, because you know it's like we don't push the first ladies to the side. We always talk about the pastors and leave out the first lady. So, from stories I've heard from some of the first ladies, and I need to do a show just for first ladies because they go through so much and they had to give up themselves uh, to be that light that shines, and they had to give up so much of themselves. So this is especially for the first ladies. Um, and the title of her show is "What the Enemy Meant for Evil, God Worked It Out for my good." Unbeknownst to her, her husband was a pastor, and she was a co-pastor, but he wanted a divorce. They went on an anniversary trip to Hawaii. She gets back from Hawaii. There on the table, he has divorce papers. She went through a lot of changes. Because she was in love with her husband, and this was like a slap in the face to her. She didn't see it coming, even though she had dreams about it, even though it would come to her mind. And as she said, she felt the separation before she was separated, before they divorced. She felt it, and as she saw signs and she saw things, but yet, when it came, it was like, it's this reality, it's this really happening. So she went through a lot of change. She went through rejection, abandonment, uh, and this is one of the things God told her to love him in spite of, even though they was getting a divorce, even though they were separated, even though they was getting a divorce. God said to love him in spite of, and bless him in spite of. Can you imagine loving him in spite of and blessing him in spite of? But when you're a child of God, we had to do things in spite of. So God sent people to minister to her and to pray with her in the time of her trouble. She said there was time that she couldn't even pray for herself, that she didn't even know how to pray. And but God sent prayer words, not the one that had always been with her, but God sent her a different group of people that would say to her, look, you don't have to say anything. I'm not asking you why you down. I'm not asking you why you feel what you feel. We're just gonna pray. And she said they would pray with her for hours. She never opened her mouth, but they would pray with her for hours. Those are the kind of people that you need in your life. When you're going through something, when you're going through trauma, that you don't have to ask, why is this or why not this, or what you're going through in order to pray. Just pray through difficult times. Just get somebody in your corner that's going to pray. And also that God restored the relationship between her and her father, that when he was in the last year of his life, that God restored that relationship, because they had gone through a lot in her family, with her siblings, and her dad and her siblings. He left them, had been mean to her mom, and so God just restored that relationship back with them. Y'all, I'm telling you, if you know a first lady, your first lady is going through something, please, please, please go to my YouTube channel and pull up her story and really, really, really just listen to her story. Another guest that was on my show was Brandy White. The title of her show, um, I'm not my past, I am who I am because of my past. And I really like that. And also, that's the title of her story in her book, I Am Not My Past, I Am Who I Am Because of My Past. Now, she had a very unusual childhood. I say unusual because most of the time when you hear about abuse, most of the time as a child, is coming from one of the parents or both of the parents. But her abuse came from her sister, that her sister would abuse her. Like when the mama would leave to go to work, her mama worked a lot, that her sister would take her through a whole lot of changes, abusing her. It was through her sister that she got a broken arm, that her arm was broken because of her sister, that her sister just physically abused her. And one of the reasons why her sister gave that she abused her was because she had a smart mouth. And her sister didn't like her because of the color of her skin, because she's a light complexion and her sister was a dark complexion. So her sister felt as though her grandmother and her mother liked her better because of the color of her skin, so she began to hate her because of the color of her skin. And not only that, she gets married to a guy, and her husband tried to kill her through strangulation. He tried to strangle her to death. And thank God for her oldest son, because her oldest son spared her life uh, just by knocking on the door, just by getting an injury in the head. I think it was an injury in the head. And someone knocked on the door to let her know, and that spared her life, really spared her life. And not only did he try to strangle her, they went to New York because that was where he was from. And he took her to a voodoo doctor to work voodoo on her. So, all the stuff was so toxic and was so dramatic for her. She ended up having a nervous breakdown and was admitted into a mental institution. But she survived. She got out, she's surviving. She's talking about going to school to be a dentist. And, she just vibrant, full of life. And I just thank God for her, that what the enemy meant for her bad, it didn't work. Well, the enemy tried to use her husband to work voodoo on her and to kill her through that, and to kill her by strangling her. It didn't work. So she also has a book that she's the author, and it's called Survivors of a Generation Unheard. So her story in the book, I am not my past, I am who I am because of my past. And another guest that was on the show was Tanya Small. She lived a double life while her husband lived a double life, but that's the title of her show. He lived a double life. So she was married to a man that even before they were married, was involved with a woman that she didn't know anything about. And after they were married, she was still involved. He was involved with this woman throughout the whole time that they were married. And she happened to just find out that he was seeing another woman. So she put a tracker on his car. She went to where he was. A little girl opened the door. She went to the bedroom where they were and found him in the bed with another woman. And she went through a whole lot of trauma just from that. She became severely depressed, and she was ready to take her husband's life. She even bought a gun and went to this woman's house with this gun. And one night she was going to kill him at her house. But her daughter actually spared her life just by walking down the steps, of the house, and saw her there, ready to kill him. So thank God, for children. Thank God for divine intervention. She was diagnosed with separation anxiety disorder because she was so attached to him, and it caused a lot of anxiety, to find out that he was cheating, to find out, when he left, and they finally got a divorce, and come to find out he had a disorder that would cause him to hide things if he felt he was going to lose someone. So he would, doing crazy stuff like stealing from her, taking stuff out of the house and putting it in a car that was there in the garage, hiding stuff from her. She talked about she would get up to go brush her teeth, and she knew that her toothpaste was there. Go to take her medicine, and she knew that her medicine was there, but he would take it and hide it, and then put it back, trying to make her think that she crazy. He broke in the house and staged a break-in in the house, tore the house up, in the bedroom and everywhere. Her brother had about 15, if I'm not mistaken, $15,000 that was there. He had sold his restaurant and had given her the money to keep. So he staged a break in and stole the money. And there the brother was left without anything. So just crazy toxic relationships, just crazy things. But she's in a relationship now. She's doing well now. She overcame the disorder. She's a prayer warrior. She started her own ministry and praying. And so, I give God praise for her and kudos for her deliverance. And one of the last guests that was on the show was Alicia Bennett. That was last month. Uh, which was a love mechanic, as she talked about. Her title was Love and Relationship. So she came on, it was a round table, and she came on and she talked to us about love and relationships. She answered questions for us, and it was a good show. I really, truly, truly enjoyed that. So you can follow her on Facebook. You can follow her on Instagram. You can follow her on other social medias. She do have a YouTube page that she does, and her name is Alasha, Alasha Bennett. So make sure, if you have any love relationship questions, please hit her up on Facebook, DM her on Facebook, and she will give you some advice on dating. These are some of the guests that was on the show. I hope and pray that I did not miss anybody. If I did, y'all take it for love. If I overlooked anybody, I pray that I didn't. I don't think I did. But anyway, I want to give special thanks to those who came on and sat on the round table. Shanita Pittman, I want to give special thanks to her. She helps me with the show. She do the writing here on the show, so I want to give special thanks to her for coming on the show, sitting in the table, sitting on the table with us. Pastor Terrence Goodlow, who sat on the round table. Esther Coffey, she sat on the round table. Special thanks to you. Juanita Lightfoot sat on the round table. Calvin Dooley, which is my son, sat on the table with us. Tanya Small, Sean Hill, Derek Radin. Thank y'all so much for making the roundtable possible. And special thanks to DJ Ronnie Run for producing the show for me, and me and him been hanging together now for a year. He always giving me advice about different things and encouraging me, to continue to do well. He always encouraged me, as well as Shanita, as well as other ones that encouraged me to really just keep on keeping on. At times when I just feel as though, oh God, I don't know if I can do another show. God, I don't know, God, if I got it in me, God, to do another show. But he would come on, he would just encourage me. And this is DJ Ron, y'all. This is DJ
Hey,
Ron.
how you
And
doing?
so
Yes. Hey, I just wanted to say congratulations. You God has blessed you. You have persevered. You have done what most people have not done. They give up on the first couple months, and but you persevered, and your show is growing. And again, I thank you for allowing me to help be a part of it and produce it. So again, I just want to say congratulations.
I really, DJ Run appreciate you, because you always encourage me. You always giving me advice. You
Hmm.
always, making me better and telling me how to be
Hmm.
better, and how to make the show even better. So
Right.
that goes a long way, and I really, truly, 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 really appreciate that, and I want you to know that. I
Thank
want
you.
you to know how much I appreciate you for
Thank you.
what you do. Yes, yes. And y'all, DJ Runny Run has a show. Tell them about your show. Your
Man, I guess
platform.
which one? I guess a critical dialogue, huh? On on
Yes.
yeah, well, critical dialogue with my co-host Andrew Crawley, Apostle Andrew Crawley, and so we basically designed that show to have conversations about controversial issues with a biblical perspective. How do we respond as a Christian? All right, and so again, there's nothing that's off limits. We talk about things that people have been afraid to discuss in church settings. And so it's all about getting understanding. Yeah, we may have difference of opinions, but we also are displaying how we can agree and still be brothers and sisters in Christ and not have to separate from each other just because I may disagree or not believe a certain thing that you believe in. So, yeah, and then also again, it's just all about having engagement and conversation. So, yeah, that's critical
Yeah,
dialogue.
y'all gonna have to look at this. I mean, because
Tuesday nights. I'm sorry. Yeah,
yeah, Tuesday nights at what
at
time?
8:30. Yeah,
At
Tuesday nights at
8:30.
8:30 on the Critical Dialogue Facebook page.
Y'all gonna have to
Yes.
listen to this, guys, because
Mhm.
I tell you, people be getting mad with them. People be saying all kind of stuff. I love Apostle Crawley. I love him because he's just down to earth. He just gonna tell you how it is, whether you like it, whether you don't. It's just what it
Mhm.
is.
Right,
That's
right.
what he's gonna do. I love it. I love it. I
Yes.
love it. And I also want to just say thank you again to everybody. Thank you to all the guests who have come on the show. Thank you to everyone who have watched the show, those who have prayed for the show. Thank the prayer line, Drew and Estelle, my brother David, Bernard on the show, brother Michael, all of y'all from the prayer who have prayed for the show and prayed for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And also, y'all, for 2022, we have some shows that's coming up. People lined up to come on the show. And I just want to throw this out here to if you have a story that you want to tell, I mean, a true story, it got to be your truth now. It can't be nobody else's truth. It can't be made up truth. You know, you got a story that you want to tell and would like to be on the show. Please hit me up. You can DM me on Facebook, uh, Instagram. You can send me a message. You can send me something through I heard ministries at gmail.com. You can email me because I would love for you to tell your story because the Bible tells us that we overcome by our testimony. We overcome the enemy by our testimony, and testimonies have changed so many people's lives. When you begin to talk about your life, experiencing your life change, it can bring you into such a place. It can bring you to a place of deliverance and being set free. So I really want you to come and be a part of the show for 2022. And I want you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I heard Ministry Saturday 4.22 Guest Towns. And I want to thank you truly for making this year a great success. And please, if the show have been a blessing to you again, you can send a donation or love offering to $ Mildred Towns. So until next week. May God bless you and keep you. Mildred Towns celebrating 1 year. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. And I just want to thank you for watching. Goodbye.